Hey guys, Ken here with Hobby Harvest. I want to talk to you today about how to save some money this year putting in your food plots. So the way we're going to do that is to analyze what we actually spend money on when we put in food plots. And the three major things are our chemicals, and that includes fertilizer, our equipment, and our seed. Now, if we can figure out how to save money on those three categories, we should be able to put in our food plots for a lot cheaper this year, especially when everybody's trying to save some money right now. Now, the way I look at food plotting is the amount of money you invest in your food plot increases the quality of the food plot. So I look at it sort of on a logarithmic graph like this. So although the more money you invest in your plots, the better they get, you're getting it at a diminishing return. So the way I see it here is if you were to invest, say, 25% of your total money, you're still going to get about 50% of the quality. Now, if you invest 100%, you're going to get 100%. But if you invest, say, 50%, you're going to get about 75%. So where on this money investment line do you want to be in order to get a quality food plot? So some people are going to say, you know what, money doesn't matter. I'm going to invest as much money as it takes to get the best quality food plot there is out there, and that's fine. But I know a lot of people are trying to save money, and this is a good way that we can do it because this only represents the quality of food plot, not the quality of hunt. So we all know that guy who's going to go out this year. He's going to put in no planning time, no scouting. He's not putting in food plots, doing nothing habitat management related. He's going to go out, he's going to sit his butt next to a tree, he's going to light up a cigarette, and he's going to shoot a huge buck this year. You know what? That just happens, but it's not the most probable thing. Now, there's also someone who's going to invest all of this money over here this year and not shoot a buck, but that's also not probable. You're definitely increasing your chances at a successful hunt by increasing the quality of your property. But if you're trying to do that on a budget, you can still find success somewhere down in here. And like I said, your dollars go a lot further on the quality scale down here at the bottom than they do at the top. So why not trim a little bit of this top off in order to save some money but still have a really good probability of having a successful hunt this year? So let's get into how we're going to do that. So we're going to start with chemicals. So I priced out my chemicals this year for spraying the plots. Now I use glyphosate and 2,4-D to kill off everything on my plots. Now when I priced them off, I found out that I'm going to be able to spray for less than $30 an acre this year per spraying. And now I did find some cheap glyphosate and some cheap 2,4-D, and I will leave the link to them down in the description below so you guys can go check that out. It's a lot cheaper than what a lot of guys have been saying they've been paying for chemicals so far this year. So make sure you check that out if you're looking to save a couple bucks there. But most of the time I will recommend that you spray 3 times before you plant your fall forage seeds. Realistically, if we're trying to save some money, we can probably cut that all the way down to 1 spraying. So if you spray 1 time before seeding, you still have a good chance at having a successful food plot that year. Now, yes, 3 sprayings is ideal over here, but if you only want to spray once, you're going to be somewhere over in here where you're paying a fraction of the price, but still having a good quality food plot. So that's one way to save money. Now, another way to save money is to plow or cultivate or disc or whatever to take care of your weeds as well. If you already own that equipment, that is an option to you. But obviously, if you don't, it's going to be a huge expense to go out and buy that equipment to do that. So we can always get away from the no-till process and go into a earth turning over method in order to deal with our weeds before planting. Another thing we can do is mow before planting. So I would still recommending mowing and then spraying at least once and then planting your seeds, but that'll at least take care of your weeds before you plant. Again, getting away from having to spray 3 times. And like I said, I priced it out at just under $30 per acre. So if you only spray once instead of 3 times, you're saving about $60 per acre there. Now with fertilizer, you're going to want to get your soil sample. That soil sample is super cheap. Just go get it. It's free in some locations as well. Get that soil sample, see what they tell you to do for your lime and fertilizer. And yes, there's no way of like bringing that cost down if you do exactly as they tell you. But again, if we look at it like on this scale, if you maybe only do 75% of the chemicals or the fertilizer that they tell you to do, 75% of the lime that they tell you to, yes, you're not going to hit this 100% ideal quality of food plot, but it's still going to be up here somewhere without breaking the bank. So again, depending on what that soil test tells you to do, you can skimp on that a little bit if you want to save a couple bucks. So the next thing I want to get into is equipment. And now this is somewhere where you can save a ton of money, even if you are brand new to food plots, because you can put in food plots with one piece of equipment. And that piece of equipment costs less than $20. I'm of course talking about a hand sprayer. Now I will link the 2-gallon hand sprayer that I use down in the description below so you guys can check that out as well. It works perfect. You go out there, you can spray a pretty decent sized food plot with that 2-gallon sprayer without having to refill it. I just take a couple 1-gallon old like milk jugs or whatever that I washed out and to take extra water out into the field with me to refill the sprayer. And I can tackle quite a bit of food plot acreage with just that one little hand sprayer. And that's all the equipment you really need to do food plotting. Now, I know guys are going to tell you they have a tractor, they have a seeder, they have all this crazy equipment. And yes, those things all work too, but don't run out and buy them. You do not need them to have a high quality food plot. But that sprayer is definitely the one thing you're going to want to invest in, because that's the one thing that's going to really take care of those weeds so that your seeds aren't having to compete with all of those weeds when they come up. Now, the last thing I want to get into is your seed price. But if you guys feel like you're getting some value out of this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. So with seed, you might think that your seed price is not negotiable. And it really isn't, because seed costs what it costs. But where we can save some money with our seed selection is the type of seed we plant. Now, we always have the option of doing a summer cover crop of buckwheat, and I did a video on that, and I'll leave it up here for you guys to check out if you want. But I priced buckwheat out, and it's going to cost about $85 per acre this year. So if we want to skip that summer cover crop step, we're going to be saving an additional $85 per acre. And it's not a necessary step to have a successful quality food plot to hunt over come season, but it is a good thing to do to build your soil quality and whatever year after year. But if you're looking to save some money this year, you can skip that step. Now, we have to think about what other kinds of seed we're going to use. And depending on what seed you plant, it can be expensive or cheap. So I priced out a couple different seeds so far. Now, if you were to plant brassicas, they're only going to cost you about $50 per acre this year, which is cheap compared to other seed blends. Now, any good food plot needs to have diversity of crop in it. So you're not going to want just a solid brassica plot. But what you could do is maybe instead of doing half and half, maybe you slide that to like 2/3 and 1/3. Now on the other half of my plots, I usually do a forage pea, a forage bean, and then like a cereal rye as a nurse crop until it comes up. Accidentally used buckwheat at that stage as well last year. But I priced that out, and that's going to be somewhere around $170 to $180 per acre to do that this year. So that $50 per acre with the brassicas is a lot cheaper. So you just want to kind of adjust to which seeds are the cheapest. You're going to have to price out for your seed supplier. This was just priced out based on what I have available at my local feed and seed in town here. And I guess that brings me to another point, is when you buy your seeds, go to your local co-op or your local feed and seed and buy the 50-pound brown bags with just the seed label stitched to the end of the bag. Those are so much cheaper than going and buying those shiny bags from the big box stores with the picture of the big buck on the front of them. Like, you will save so much money if you just make your own seed blends, and they're not that difficult to do. In fact, my local Feed and Seed actually gets seed from one of the food plot seed distributors, and then I don't have to pay shipping because they ship it directly to the Feed and Seed. And then if it's like raining when they would have shipped it to my house, it's not getting rained on now. I just go down there, they load it into my truck for me, and away I go. So that's definitely a huge advantage to do it that way instead of going to the big box store and buying those little tiny bags of seed. Like, that just costs so much money. To save money, make sure you're going and getting those big 50-pound unmarked bags and mixing your own seed blends. So one of the other ways we know that we can have a successful food plot is to plant just winter rye in a monoculture by itself, and I priced that out. It's going to be about $90 per acre. So again, that's more expensive than the brassicas, but it's not as expensive as the beans and peas and the cereal grain. So it's also possible maybe do half brassica, half winter rye or something in order to just keep your prices down. So like I said, price out some different things in your area. Go with whatever seed happens to be cheapest, but just maintain that you do have some sort of diversity in your plots. At least 2 different things, and that brassica group is a brassica blend. It's not all the same type of brassicas. But being able to have different things means that they might be more attractive to the deer at different times of the year. So those deer will keep coming back and eating whatever happens to be the favored thing at that time. So if you guys have any other tips or tricks for people to save money on food plotting this year, why don't you go ahead and leave those down in the comments? And let's try to help people save some money this year, because I think everybody really wants to do that. And if you guys are new to food plotting, go ahead and check out this video I did here. It's the basics of whitetail habitat design. It'll give you a really good idea of how to get started creating food plots on your property this year.